Hansen was stunned by the sudden voice in his head, and he could hardly believe it was true. Sacred blood creature and sacred blood beast soul. Were those even real? The creatures of God's sanctuary were divided into 4 parts. Ordinary creatures, primitive creatures, mutant creatures, and sacred blood creatures. Different geno points could be gained by eating flesh of creatures of different types. At that time, there were 4 God's sanctuary phases known to men. With each physical evolution completed, access to the next space would be permitted. The more powerful the geno points used in evolution, the higher the likelihood of surviving in the next space. Sacred blood beast souls were without any doubt the best beast souls. Any sacred blood beast soul could be sold at an enormous price. When Hansen finally realized what had really happened, he was almost trembling. Holding the dagger to pick open the shell of the black beetle, he filled his mouth with meat as tender as jelly. Flesh of black beetle eaten. 1 sacred geno point gained. Feeling the flesh turn to energy and hearing the voice in his mind almost brought Hansen to tears. He grabbed a claw and sucked out all meat from it, feeling waves of energy hitting his body and boiling his blood. There was not much difference between eating a sacred blood black beetle and eating a crab. After sucking the meat clean from all 6 claws, Hansen started to cut the meat inside the shell. Flesh of black beetle eaten. 1 sacred geno point gained. Flesh of black beetle eaten. 1 sacred geno point gained. The strange voice continuously sounded in Hansen's mind and made him feel on top of the world. As Hansen was cutting away, he felt his dagger cut into something hard that made a sound like metal. Hansen stopped. Black beetles and crabs are alike. They looked tough, but inside their shells there would be nothing but boneless meat. So how could there be metal? He removed the dagger, pulled aside the meat that had been cut, and saw a corner of black metal. Hansen cut open all the meat surrounding it, and soon the black metal was completely exposed. At first he thought it was metal, but taking it out, he discovered that it was a black crystal the size and shape of a pigeon egg. Hansen took the crystal in his hand and didn't feel anything abnormal. The crystal was just like a beautiful, rounded black pebble, but with a closer look there seemed to be millions of stars shining in it, creating incredible beauty. Here is the easiest area in God's sanctuary, Hansen thought. Even primitive creatures are hard to find here, let alone sacred blood creatures. How did this sacred blood black beetle suddenly appear? And I've never heard of a sacred blood black beetle before. Black beetles are such low life after all. And this sacred blood black beetle is so outrageously weak. Is its appearance related to the crystal? There was no clue, so he simply ate all the rest of the black beetle meat and was stuffed. He gained a total of 7 sacred geno points. 7 sacred geno points were beyond his wildest dreams. With his background, he needed to risk everything even to kill a primitive creature, let alone a sacred blood creature. The shell of the sacred blood black beetle was also precious material. So Hansen picked up all the claws and stuffed them into his pocket, together with the upper and lower shells. The shell of ordinary black beetles almost had no value, but the shell of a sacred blood black beetle would probably make a soup that could give him 1 or 2 more sacred geno points. It was the first time Hansen had eaten a sacred blood creature. Technically, he could max out and get 10 sacred geno points. He already had 7 from the meat, and the other 3 should be in the shell. If he were to sell the shell, he could probably afford a nice private aircraft in Levo Interstellar alliance with the money he received. On the way back to Steel Armor Castle, everyone was pointing at him, gloating and laughing, and no one would come near him. Everyone in the sanctuary was looking at him as if he were a monster. Normally, when an ordinary person went to the sanctuary, even if he were poor, if his martial skills were not too bad, he could always find some companions and kill a few primitive creatures together, and he would be nowhere near as miserable as Hansen. However, in the entire Steel Armor Castle, no one was willing or had the courage to have anything to do with Hansen. More than 3 months ago, Hansen had entered God's sanctuary for the first time. The moment he stepped outside Steel Armor Shelter, he saw a giant white wolf unicorn standing, with its back towards him around the corner of the rampart. Without hesitation, Hansen grabbed his dagger and fiercely stabbed the unicorn in the ass. This stab turned Hansen and Qin Xuan together into the biggest laughingstock in Steel Armor Shelter. Yes, the white wolf unicorn was not a beast, but a human like Hansen himself. She was just transforming using a beast soul. Qin Xuan was also the most powerful woman in Steel Armor Shelter. She was likely to finish. Her first evolution with Sacred Geno points and embark on the path of evolution. A new guy stabbing Qin Xuan's rear end became the biggest joke in Steel Armor Shelter, although no one dared to mention this to Qin Xuan's face. Secretly, everyone was laughing their asses off, and Ass Freak became Han Sen's well-known nickname in Steel Armor Shelter. Then Qin Xuan declared that whoever spent time with Han Sen would become her enemy. In Steel Armor Shelter, few people could afford to be Qin Xuan's enemy. Even if they could afford it, no one would risk antagonizing Qin Xuan for the sake of a nobody and Ass Freak. That was why Han Sen had such a difficult time. But he didn't really blame Qin Xuan. It was his fault in the first place. He was too nervous the first time he came to God's sanctuary. Plus, he had never seen creatures in his previous world or Transformers before, which all led to the unforgivable mistake. Han Sen was already grateful that Qin Xuan did not kill him in anger. The only lucky thing was that the teleportation into God's sanctuary was always random, and there were no familiar faces in Steel Armor Shelter, so no one knew his real name.